All set.
All right. It is 7 o'clock. Let's call the Common Council meeting to order, and I will ask our clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Ranke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
Stefanski.
Here.
Tenorio.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Grisham.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Keen.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
10 present.
Okay, we have a quorum. We will now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderperson Ranke.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we will move on to Part D of our agendas. We have 6 public hearings this evening. I will ask the clerk to read out our first public hearing.
Resolution to confirm and adopt the report of the city engineer containing the schedule of proposed assessments for improvement of South 62nd Street from West Washington to West Greenfield Avenue and South 56th Street from West Beloit Road to West Rogers Street by concrete reconstruction with miscellaneous walk repair, storm sewer relay, sanitary sewer relay, water main relay, building services, and utility adjustments.
Thank you, and we'll turn things over to Pete Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor Devine. Okay, this is the hearing for 56th and 62nd. So here are the limits for 56th Street from Beloit on the north to Rogers on the south. We're kind of jumping over the top of Burnham, but there is some sewer work that will go through there. And then the other one, 62nd Street from Washington to Greenfield. We're not getting into the Greenfield intersection, and actually Madison is new, so we're actually jumping over the top of that, but we're doing those 2 blocks. This is a picture of the concrete on 56th Street that was put in 1927. This picture was actually taken in 1949. So at this point, the road was only about 22 years old. At this point, the road is now 94 years old. That concrete that you see in this picture is still under there. And there is a layer of asphalt from 1972-74 that's now 47, 49 years old itself. So I just want to stress, this pavement that you see from 1927 is still there. Just as a point of reference, only 19% of the population on this street probably even had a car in 1927. So, and if they did, it probably looked like something like this. So here's some pictures from 56th Street. This is the alligator cracking that I talk about so often, the potholes. This road is just beyond any kind of maintenance that could be done. It's tedious to try and maintain. It's impossible to try and fill all these cracks. So this road is completely gone. And then the other one, 62nd Street. This is a picture right here, also from 1949. Just a point of reference, you can see the Paradise Theater here, and you can see it here in this picture. So this trolley is actually the trolley right there. But this road was built in 1921. So it's 100 years old officially. It's first 100 years right now, and it's still in service underneath the 1971, 1972 asphalt resurface that was put in. That's 49 to 50 years old itself, and only 10% of the population owned a car in 1921. So most of the people probably were riding the trolleys at that point. Here are some pictures from 62nd Street. There are far too many cracks to seal anymore. I was the inspector in 1998 out here when we actually seal coated these roads to try to fill the cracks. So that was over 20 years ago. We can't seal all the cracks anymore. This road is beyond repair. The seal coat that we did in 1998 was not very well received because it's very sticky, and a lot of people tracked the tar into their carpeting. So we don't want to do that again. And the sewers, as you'll see in the next slide, the sewers are, well, here's a picture of what the road will look like, the new concrete and the new concrete pavement, new sidewalk, new driveways. But the sewers are also well over 100 years old. So we're going to put in all new water main. The existing water mains from 1909 to 1912. So it's 109 to 112 years old. This is actually a plan of the water main on 62nd Street, signed by the very first city engineer of the city in 1909, Fred Schneider. We're also putting in new copper water service up to the curb, up to the water box. So the public portion of the water service will be replaced. The lead will be replaced with copper. I'll talk a little bit later about replacing the rest of the lead from there to the basement. That will be an option later this year. We're putting in new storm sewer and laterals. Most of these streets don't even have storm sewer. That will become important when I talk about the sump pumps in the future here. And then we're putting in new sanitary sewer. The existing sewer also is from 1909 to 1910, so it's 111 to 112 years old. Initially they said sewers would last about 75 years, and they said 100 years. We're well beyond, we're on borrowed time on how long these things can actually last. And a lot of them are collapsing at this point, so they need to be replaced. The streetlights on 62nd Street have already been replaced. DPW did that last year. So they already have LED lights, which will stay. And then 56th Street will also be getting new lighting as well. DPW is going to do that circuit. The existing lighting is from like 1935, so it's also about 80 some years old. So as I was alluding to, once we replace all the sewers in the street, all of these residents will be eligible for the work from the street to the basement. So that includes, you'll be getting information in the mail later this year, probably not till like November, December. You'll get a form like this and you'll have check boxes. You can choose to replace your water service, replace the lead with copper. You can choose to have your sanitary lateral lined to give it strength and keep the roots out. And then you'll also be able to choose to have a sump pump installed. So I'll give a little more information about each of those. I just want to stress, as far as the water service, the water is safe. It comes from Lake Michigan, and the Milwaukee Water Works treats it with phosphorus so that the lead pipes are not touching the water at this point. That's been very effective at keeping the lead out of the water. But during construction, some of that phosphorus could be shaken loose. So we will be offering free water filters. If you give us a call, we'll drop off one of those or a Brita free water filters that you can use during construction, and you can keep it as long as you like. There is a fee for the water service plumbing work that I'm talking about. There will be a $1,600 fee that will come later. That's voluntary. You can choose to do that or not choose to do that. The actual work costs more like $5,000, but the residents are only paying $1,600. We do have housing programs available if you don't think you can afford the $1,600. So give us a call and let us know. We might be able to give you a loan or a grant to pay for that $1,600. Then I also talked about the sump pumps. Mmsd is offering free sump pumps to get the rainwater out of their sewer system. There is a $695 fee to extend the pipe for the sump pump to discharge in. But otherwise, it's the rest of the sump pump, which is, I believe, like $4,000, would be free. That's covered by MMSD. And then we're also offering to line your sanitary lateral from the basement to like the sidewalk. The part from the sidewalk to the street will be new. So the part from the sidewalk to the basement could be lined without digging up your yard. These are kind of pictures that show how they would do that. There would be maybe a hole in the yard, but they're not going to dig up the whole yard to do that. So these are all programs that these residents will become eligible for. They're not eligible for now because we have to replace everything in the street first. And the rules of the program from the DNR and MMSD are that the city has to do their work first, and then they will help pay for the rest of the work to go to the basement. So, but you'll get more information about that later. So back to the main project in the street, the pavement is going to be about $800,000. The sanitary sewer is about $1.1 million. Storm sewer, $500,000. Water main, $676,000. So it's a $3 million job. Like I said, the streetlights were already replaced on 62nd, and we will be replacing lights on 56th Street. That's an additional cost that I don't have right now. Here is how the project's being funded. So the special assessments that we're talking about tonight really are only funding 8% of it. They're about $243,000. Then the general fund, so the citywide property taxes are paying 19%. The citywide water utility fees are paying 22%. The citywide stormwater program fees are paying 15%. And then the citywide sanitary utility fees are paying 36%. So overwhelming, 92% of the project is being paid for with citywide fees. It's just that 8% that's being paid for by the people who live on the street. Here is a sample assessment. The lots on these streets are a little bit smaller, 30 feet. So the assessment rate is $62 per foot. So the cost to the homeowner is about $1,866. If you had a driveway, there would be an additional charge for that. The estimate that you got in the mail is not a bill. You don't have to pay that now. The bills will not go out until March of 2022. So next year, almost more than a year from now. And if you do sign up for the 10-year installment plan that I'm going to talk about, you actually wouldn't make your first installment payment until December of 2022. So that's almost 22 months from now, almost 2 years from now, before you would actually be making your first installment payment. And hopefully we're hoping that COVID will be over by then and everything will be back to normal. So as I said, there are payment options. You can pay it all off at once. You can do a 5-year plan. You can do a 10-year plan. If you do the 10-year plan, there is 4% interest. The city does not make a profit off that interest. We have to borrow the money for this project. So we are merely paying the bondholders who we're borrowing the money from, paying them interest to borrow the money. So we're not making a profit off the interest. But your first payment in 2022, your first payment for the whole year would be $261. So that's $22 a month. And your 10th year payment in 2031 would be $194. That's $16 per month. So it's very reasonable over a 10-year plan. Why do we special assess? For over 110 years, the city has special assessed city property owners who have historically paid in the old days, back when these streets were built in 1921, the property owners paid 100% of the cost. And this time they're only paying 8% of the cost, $243,000 in special assessments. Why? Because the residents on the street are enjoying a unique benefit that the rest of the citizens are not enjoying. You're getting a new street that's unique to you. That's kind of the basis in state law on how we can special assess property owners, because they're getting something that nobody else is getting. The assessment rate is $62.21 per foot for all residential properties anywhere in the city, no matter how wide the street is, or how high the traffic volumes are, or how high the actual bid prices are. Everyone is treated equally. Everyone pays exactly $62.21 per foot. And for over 110 years, like I said, Wisconsin has had this law that allows for special assessments. And there have been at least 100 court cases I'm familiar with where judges have ruled that this law is a fair and equitable way to recoup the costs. So it's been around for a very long time and has stood the test of time. Another reason that we special assess is that it's the only way to ensure that tax exempt schools, churches, charities, hospitals, county parks, utilities, railroads even pay their fair share too. No one is exempt from special assessments, even though there are 430 properties in the city that don't pay any property taxes. Many of these tax exempt schools, churches, and hospitals, and county parks especially, are very large properties, and they actually encompass about 28% of the city's land area that's not paying taxes. So they don't contribute to the city's cost except through special assessments in many cases. Businesses, corporations, and manufacturers pay a higher rate. Their assessment rate is $77 to $93 per foot. And in this case, Wells Fargo Bank on 62nd Street is going to be paying $30,000 in special assessments because they're paying a higher rate and they have a large piece of property. This map here shows all the properties that I talked about, that the 430 that are tax exempt. And this map over here shows all the colored locations are properties that have paid a special assessment in the last 15 years, I believe. And on the east side, it's almost everyone has paid at least in the past 15 years. And if you go back far enough, obviously everyone has paid at least once, and many times over the 100 years. So there will be some inconvenience. So on-street parking, if you park on the street now, you'll have to park on side streets. You don't have to get a permit for that. The police will be aware. If you need a disabled parking spot located somewhat nearby, we can make arrangements for that. Just give us a call. I can even put it right in the specifications that they must accommodate you, and we can put in a special disabled parking spot on the nearest cross street that you could have access to fairly easily. Oops, things just went wacko. What happened? I'm sorry, that hasn't happened before. We're almost done. Here we go. This is the schedule. We're going to start advertising for bids on March 12th. We'll have the bid opening on March 31st. We don't get to pick who the contractor is. It'll be the low bidder by state law. We Energies has told us that they're going to start putting in a new gas main work, which you see here, on about April 1st. They're going to take about a month. In the meantime, the council would hopefully award the contract on April 7th. And hopefully, if the weather permits and We Energies gets done and there's no snow on the ground, we could get going in May. And then we would definitely be done by October. We haven't finalized the exact end date, but there would be a penalty, or there would be a liquidated damages if the contractor was past that end date that we set. And the contractor would be bonded to guarantee that they would finish their work. And then in January of 2022 is when we would start all that private plumbing work that I talked about, the $13,000 in free plumbing work that you could be eligible for. That would be started, and that would be a separate contract because that would be done by a plumber, and there would be different requirements for that. So that work could actually go on during the winter, but they would have to come into your basement to do a lot of that work. So just be aware of that. And then last slide, if you want updates on the work, if you go to our website, we have the construction and progress report that comes out at least once a week and discusses all the projects and the status and what's happening next and who to call. So if you get signed up for that on our website, it's the one right down, I don't know how many down there, 10 down. You'll get emails right to your house that tell you what's happening next, and you'll be fully informed on what's happening this week or next week. So that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Thanks for the presentation, Mr. Daniels. Are there any questions from the Common Council on public hearing number 1? Okay, hearing none.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Nope, there was somebody talking while muted. Alderman Vitale.
Yeah, Pete, I'm delighted that finally, like I say, we seen some of those proposals of, reconstruct some of those streets, like 56, even 57 between Beloit and the track is very, it needs probably be the next round to reconstruct it just as well. So I'm glad the proposal are really, they need to be done. The curbs are shots, and I really wish that everyone really, once the project begins, they all agree to have the Sump pump install it, and connect the ladder with the Sump pump into the connected with the storm sewers. I think would be, the cost is a lot, but really it's not for the percentage that a homeowner will pay for. To me, that's a great idea. So some people that I know, I always tell them, I said, if you have no Sump pump, for the future, and you think you're going to live there, or for the new owner, whoever comes in, still it's an incentive for your property. So I wish everybody will, at least a good percentage, people will agree on that, have that installed, during the projects, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions from the Common Council? Hearing none. I would just ask our clerk, have we received any written comment on any of our public hearings this evening?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you. So with nothing from the public, we will close public hearing number 1, and I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 2.
I'm sorry, I just found a resident comment for
Oh.
62nd in Washington.
Yes.
From Amy Bedrano. She's a resident on 62nd in Washington. She has a comment regarding the payment plan. I understand the need to repair the sidewalks and agree it should be completed. However, especially in the time of a pandemic, I do not feel most residents, including myself, have extra funds lying around for this expenditure. I see there is a proposed payment option which seems fair except for the interest rates. It does not seem right that we will have to pay a 4% interest for a project we did not all propose. I am all for reconstructing our neighborhood, but do not think we should have to pay interest for this payment, for a payment plan, especially not in a rate excess the current prime interest rate of 3.25%. Thank you in advance for addressing this concern.
Thank you. And thanks to Ms. Pedrano for her comments. One thing I just wanted to add to the discussion is that if she is able to find rates that are better from another source, we've always encouraged that. And I just wanted to ask if Mr. Daniels is still on the line.
Yes.
I know you said it during your presentation, but the bills won't be sent out until when again?
December. The bills will be sent out in March of 2022, but if you choose the 10-year installment plan, which is what she's talking about, your first payment wouldn't be until December of 2022. And yes, we pay interest to the people we borrow the money from. So we have to pass that along to the people that choose the payment plan in order to be fair to the people who are paying it all off at once. They don't incur interest. So since we're not getting our money for 10 years, we have to pay interest. They have to pay us interest. We're not making a profit off of that interest. That's what we're actually paying our bondholders, with some overheads included, but that's what we're paying our bondholders for the bonds.
Thank you. So thank you again for, if you're still listening or watching, Ms. Pedrano, thanks for your comments. And if you have follow-up questions, I just tried to answer them best I can without having the direct interaction with you, but feel free to reach out to one of your 2 aldermen or myself or engineering department if you have any further questions. Nothing else on number 1, then we will move on to item 2, and I'll ask our clerk to read our second public hearing.
Ordinance to amend the official West Dallas zoning map by rezoning property located at 1436 South 92nd Street from RC2 Residential District to C2 Neighborhood Commercial District, submitted by Andy Lopek, tax key number 4510228-002.
Thank you. We'll turn things over to staff. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The first or second hearing this evening, the zoning hearing for Andy Lopek. He's a new property owner. He purchased the 1436 property on 92nd Street, just south of Greenfield Avenue, north of Lapham Street. The property is currently zoned RC2 multifamily. And Mr. Lopek's plan is to demolish an existing garage, build a new garage, and then also locate his contracting office here and utilize the garage for storage of his truck and some tools. Furthermore, down the road, there is a larger game plan too, which he'll be coming back to the council for his wife and sister-in-law would like to run a bakery from the site within the commercial building that you see on the front of the property facing 92nd Street. So So that gets us to the second bullet point, which this is an existing mixed use property. It has a commercial building on the front end facing 92nd Street. And then you'll see in that picture above a duplex behind it. So mixed use. And as currently zoned, the RC2 district does allow mixed use properties. However, given the future commercial use that the owner is interested in doing here, a potential bakery, the rezoning to C2 would not only fit that future use a little bit better, but it would also align with our 2030 comp plan. The next slide here shows the comp plan, the 2030 land use map on the left. And you'll see the highlighted property bounded in black there is commercial land use. That's the red marking here. It's all commercial. And then the zoning map on the right, which shows the existing zoning. One multifamily zoned property with surroundings of commercial C2. So planning is in support of the zoning change, and it went to Planning Commission last month on the 27th. Planning Commission recommended council further the rezoning. That's why we're here tonight for the public hearing. Property has been noticed. Properties within 200 feet have been notified, and it's been posted in the city's official paper. Received no objections to date, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scher. Are there any questions on this item from the Common Council? Okay, hearing none. I'll just ask our clerk I'll give her the running leeway to interrupt me if we get any public comment on any of these public hearings coming up. Assuming we have not heard any on item number 2, I will close public hearing number 2. And I will ask our clerk to read out public hearing number 3.
Ordinance to amend the official West Allis zoning map by rezoning properties located at 331-33 South 108th Street and 1 * block of South 108th Street from M1 Light Industrial to C3 Community Commercial Districts, tax key numbers 414-999-0001 and 414-991-00002.
Thank you, Mr. Scher.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a proposed rezoning of property, which includes the Colders property, a 12-acre parcel off of Highway 100, and then also a city-owned parcel or city-controlled parcel, which provides access to the Colders property as well as the Hank Aaron State Trail. It's located at the intersection of I-94 and 108th Street, Highway 100, just north of Theo Trekker Way. So the city's main charge here is basically to align this property with the plan, which calls for a commercial land use on both of these sites. And as zoned currently, it's light manufacturing or light industrial. And you see some of the just proximity. The pictures on the right-hand side. The top photo is of the view from I-94 at the off-ramp. You can see Colders, and then down below the Colders sign, and that's the city's access road leading down to the Colders site. The picture on the very bottom is of some sight lines into the Colders property. While there is a significant tree canopy on this site, and it is lower below that of the elevation of Highway 100, it is still visible from Highway 100 as well as the interstate. What's prompted the I guess tonight's public hearing has been a series of moratoriums that have taken place over the past couple months, going back to October, when Crete Trucking had made a proposal. They're a prospective buyer of this site. They made a proposal to the city to develop their trucking company, their corporate headquarters, and parts and showroom for truck sales at this site back in October. That was just a presentation to the council to express their interest in the site. The same night, council also wanted a little bit more time to evaluate not only the Crete proposal, but that of the rezoning effort and aligning with the comp plan. So moratoriums were put in place and extended, and this is sort of the culmination of all that. Our planning, the planning division or planning program shares the various options that are out here. So for this 15-acre parcel, you know, the 3-acre city parcel plus the 12-acre Colder site, there's make us 2 options: maintain the existing light industrial zoning, or to rezone it to that of a commercial C3 zoning district, which would align with the 2030 comp plan. And this is the area here. It's the aerial view of that property. And you know, basically, the Highway 100 study calls for alignment with the comp plan, as well as encouraging you know, along this corridor to look for a more dynamic, diverse mix of uses. The light industrial district, while it does allow certain commercial uses, its main intent is to provide a platform for and a place for manufacturing uses, warehouses, self-storage, shops, and other sort of industrial uses. Whereas the commercial zoning district, as staff is recommending, would promote mixed use apartments, residential uses, hotels, and other, you know, destination type of uses. And given the proximity and location to the zoo interchange, the zoo itself, the city of Wauwatosa, Waukesha County, it's poised for, you know, potentially as one of the top 5, maybe even 10 locations within the metro area. So we're looking at this as a real opportunity. We don't want this to be an opportunity lost where we could have had this or could have had that. We really want to take a look at this site and think about it as you know, a major focal point within this area, with over, you know, 1,200 feet of frontage along I-94 and another 700 or 800 feet along Highway 100. It's a prime location, and we think the commercial zoning would best suit not only what the comp plan recommends, but would also help us further evaluate this site with the owners of the property and properly market it for a higher and better use. So this is just a slide showing the 2030 land use map on the left, as well as then the zoning map on the right. You can see the comp plan from the land use map shows a commercial land use. And that's the direction staff is recommending for the zoning as well. So this is a quick little schedule of what's happened to date. The moratorium was extended in December. There's been a series of public notices to notify property owners within the vicinity, as well as within the official paper. Planning Commission has recommended approval, and tonight's the public hearing. So while council does not need to act this evening, it is something you know, we feel it would suit the best interest of the city with regard to the Highway 100 corridor study, as well as the comp plan. And there have been some objections to date from that of the property owner, as well as a prospective buyer. So with that concludes my my presentation on this item.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on public hearing number 3 from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine, Rote.
Alderman Rote.
Steve, with this new rezone to C3, that would eliminate the Crete Company, correct?
That's correct. If rezoned, while their office use is something that could work within a commercial zoning district, it's important to note that the Crete Trucking Company is not just an office, you know, corporate office. It also has the commercial truck sales, the commercial truck repair, as well as warehousing, which is a light industrial use. So they would, in fact, need a light industrial zoning.
And one more, if I may, Mayor Devine?
Yep. Go ahead.
Would this C3 allow for, I believe it was last spring or maybe even last winter, that golf complex that was so highly touted before the city here? Would that be allowed on the C3?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Steve.
Thank you. Was there somebody else, or did I hear an echo?
It was me, but Dan asked my question.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I did hear it then. Thank you. Any other questions on public hearing number 3 from the council? Okay, hearing none and assuming no public comment has come in, I will close public hearing number 3. And I believe hearings 4 and 5 can be taken together. If that's the case, I will ask our clerk to read those 2 out.
Ordinance to amend the official West Dallas zoning map, amending section 12.05 relating to the following properties: 6500 West Washington, 1323 South 65th Street, and 1339-1347 South 65th Street. And item 5, ordinance to amend the official West Allis future land use map within the city's comprehensive plan, Chapter 10 land use from industrial and office to commercial land use.
Thank you. And we'll turn things over to staff. Mr. Sheriff.
Motor Castings property is comprised of three properties. On the very south end, the 1339 property, and then that's a warehouse. And then moving further north along the site, you have the main office and foundry portion, which is in alignment more or less with Madison Street. And then further north of that is their outdoor storage yard and the remaining extent of the foundry property. So those are the 3 properties that are currently zoned M1 light manufacturing. This was clearly while it's zoned light manufacturing, we recently created a M2 zoning district, but Motor Castings is no longer here. So they're gone. It's owned by a company out of Warsaw, Indiana, currently, and they are currently evaluating potentially demolishing the buildings, with perhaps with the exception of the warehouse building in the far south at 1339 property, and then looking for an adaptive reuse. So this is a perfect time to take a look at what could be, and and it's not hard to see a lot of the improvements which the council has been instrumental in getting done around the area. You look just to the west, you have the Whitnall Summit properties, and then to the south you have the 6 Points neighborhood redevelopment. The 70th Street corridor, the future brings perhaps Alice Yards along the 70th Street corridor, farmers market a little further south. So there's a lot of synergy taking place within the immediate area over the past 5 to 10 years, perhaps even over the past 10 years. And this property is really suited and in a proper location for what planning thinks is a rezone. To get it out of the M1 light industrial zoning district, and then take a look at a C3 zoning, which is along Greenfield Avenue, where you have the Cousins and the Berkshire and the 6 Points apartments, all of the Mandel property, the farmers market area, the Reunion, all of that is more or less zone C3 commercial. So this would bring that commercial zoning up north along 65th Street to potentially these 3 properties. And in cooperation with the current property ownership, as well as our economic development team, we'd really like to explore some of the uses other than industrial for this site, and we think it's suited for just that. So these are the on the left is the future land use map, and then on the right is the area of the zoning change. You'll notice that the zoning is M1, the land use category is also industrial and office. So before the council would rezone anything here, we'd also recommend that the land use be consistent, or at least be changed first to that of like a commercial land use, and then the rezoning could take place from there and become commercial. And council could take a look at this a few different ways too. I mean, you could rezone all of it, and change the land use and rezone all of it, or parts of it. So it's there are options. It doesn't, what I'm presenting is everything all in here, but there are 3 parcels, and council could choose 1, 2, or all 3 as they see fit. The next slide here is just kind of a recap of our schedule. The moratoriums have been extended into December. There's been a period of public notice for both the future land use map changes as well as the zoning changes. And then our planning commission has recommended approval on the 27th of January. So tonight's the public hearing, and then there have been no objections that staff has received to date. So that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Chair. Are there any questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine, this is Haas.
Yeah, Alderman Haas.
And Steve, so am I correct that what we're being asked to do tonight is to approve a change, but not to decide yet what that change will be? Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, the only change would be to the future land use map to go from a industrial land use to a commercial land use, and then subsequently to rezoning from M1 light manufacturing to commercial zoning, C3 zoning. But we do not have an end user in mind. So there's not like an apartment building or really any developer that's looking at this right now. This is setting the stage for that next step to come, and then marketing the site as well in cooperation with the ownership.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you did answer my question that we'd be going from M1 to C3 with our action tonight. Thank you.
Mayor Devine,
Thank you. Alderman Lysick.
I just want to point out that all of the proposed ordinance changes and resolutions regarding rezoning will not be acted upon this evening. They're all going to be referred to committee. We've got a meeting next Wednesday, Safety and Development Committee, where we'll be discussing all of these items and possibly taking action on them then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Vitale?
Yeah, that's for Steve. Steve, you know the owners of the old motor casting, if there's any setting time for their demolish, motor casting structure? I mean, there's any time when they'll do that, or we don't know that, right?
There's been some indication, some conversations between a demolition contractor, but I mean, it sounds like within the next month or so was what was indicated. We'll see if they come through with that, but it could be spring. I mean, we'll see, but it sounds like the conversations I've heard to date, it sounds like it's they definitely intend on bringing the buildings down.
So the other questions that I have, so by going per se to C3, so I mean, any developer, somebody could say, well, maybe would be something attractive for us to build some apartments there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, apartments are one option. It could also be, you could have food production users like banquet halls or food halls. You could have mixed uses. There's a range of different uses that could take place here. One concept that was floated a while back was for like a multifamily type of development, apartments, and then repurposing maybe one of the buildings on site for a restaurant or a pub of sorts. But we'll see. I mean, it's all very conceptual. There's not a
everything. Yeah, it's
not a
making. Yeah,
hard and
that's true.
fast plan anywhere yet, right? Yep.
But the fact it is that if per se we would go zoning the site for M2, so M2 it is for light industrial, right?
M1 is light industrial.
Sorry about that. Yeah, M1 is a light industrial. So the same business that you just mentioned they would be able to go there just as well, right?
Since motor castings, I don't think it's been going quite a year yet. I mean, but another, if you leave it, I guess if the zoning stays the same as M1, another similar use to that of motor castings could conceivably come in and reuse the building. Now, motor castings, I would say, is not a light industrial use. It's a heavy industrial,
sure.
forgings and so on. So that's castings.
Yes.
But so that's but even so, I mean, if it's been less than 12 months since motor castings has left, another similar heavy industrial use could come in, even though the site is zoned light industrial. So, but that's, I guess I wouldn't recommend that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen, but it sounds like the owner is going to be wanting to remove the buildings, at least some of them, and work with the city on a redevelopment plan.
Try to redevelop that. Well, like I said, just I'm concerned about if we really should have apartments there. I mean, it's kind of narrowed down to it's all residential across the street. So I mean, that's one of my biggest concern. I mean, we're talking about sometime apartments based on the area could be acceptable, but I mean, we can't just talking about apartments, and I think we should be more diversified in some of the areas, really, to have some, at least like I say, light industrial with some small business that you mentioned. Maybe somebody could go on that side, to make things happen. So the tax revenue maybe won't be as well, but they create some jobs. To me, that would be the directions to follow. So, but like I said, everything is in the making at this time, so we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions from the council? Okay, hearing none. We will close public hearings 4 and 5, and I will ask the clerk to read our last public hearing, item 6.
Resolution relative to determination of an application for a special use permit for Flower Girl and Flame, a proposed restaurant and limited food production business to be located at 8121-23 West National Avenue.
Thank you. And once again, I'll turn things over to staff. Mr. Scher.
Thanks, Mayor. The Flower Girl is one of the executive chefs of Tall Guy and a Grill on 68th and Lincoln. Has started her own thing. Working in cooperation with Tall Guy and Grill, but they're looking at the site at 2123 National Avenue as a possible location for their food preparation and storage business. There would also be a retail offering for take and bake pizzas. And so restaurants, limited food production are considered special uses within the C2 commercial zoning district. And that's the purpose for our hearing this evening. So the Flower Girl and Flame name started, business started back in like August. And it became very successful, and now they're at the point where they're looking for some brick and mortar, in this case along our National Avenue corridor, for the new business offering. The hours initially to start would be Wednesday through Sunday between 4 and 8 p.m. However, with the grant of the special use, the way the special use is listed, the hours would be between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. daily to offer some more flexibility should they grow and need more general flexible hours of operation. The interior lease space is primarily just for preparation and holding of the food, refrigeration, cutting the mushrooms, preparing the ingredients for the take and bake pizzas. And so that brings us to the next point. The front entry, as you come into the building, would also have a retail area where you could select from the various menu items that they have, and then get your order and take it home and bake it. They do have a wood-fired, mobile wood-fired pizza oven, which would be going out to different farmers markets events, throughout the community, not only our own farmers market, but different farmer market offerings throughout the metro area, and basically promoting their products and selling pizzas. So they're also very focused on local products from the state of Wisconsin, not only our own perhaps farmers market and local resources, but also but primarily from the state of Wisconsin. So it's a good thing to have along our corridor. It fits very well into the corridor plan. These are just some images from their Facebook site, so the different menu offerings, the different types of ingredients within their pizzas. And then this is a picture of a wood-fired mobile pizza oven. Interestingly, the next door is the Railroad Park area. While this isn't part of the immediate plan, they do have, they would like to talk to the city about programming the Railroad Park area just to the west of the alley that runs north-south off of National Avenue. You can see it here. They would like to talk about programming this park down the road, maybe in later this year or in 22, with perhaps some community gardens or gardens to support some of their ingredients, as well as maybe a space for outdoor events for the community in the neighborhood. The views of the floor plans are pretty basic here, but this is the space that they're interested in leasing. The front area would be like a front lobby. Then they come into the retail area and the production area where they're going to be prepping and storing a lot of their food and products. So it's really just sort of a simplistic and small build out of the interior space with some equipment, refrigeration and the retail space. But that will support 7 to 10 jobs for the West Dallas area. And just the lower level, the basement area, below, walking pool down there. Behind the building, there is space for parking. They'll have street parking, and we feel it's there ample street parking, along both north and south sides of National Avenue. A lot of the other businesses in the area are in sort of the same boat. They don't have a lot of off-street parking, being a traditional neighborhood area. Street parking is key. There is an opportunity, though, not too far away. There is some municipal parking along the south side of the railroad tracks that is actually owned by the city. So that is, perhaps an overflow area if need be. So that our planning commission did recommend approval on the 27th, and have received no objections to date. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Are there any questions from the council on public hearing number 6?
Mayor Devine. It's a
Jinx
tie.
goes first.
Me. It's
All right.
Alderwoman Keene.
What?
I just had a quick question, Steve. Did the plans change? I thought originally that they were looking at having some small seating inside. The building they were looking at had a smoker in the basement that they were going to maybe utilize, and it kind of more seemed like the brick oven pizza was going to be there, and like I said, potential room for outside seating and a few tables inside. So did that change, or did I misunderstand it the first time?
That certainly may be the case down the road. I mean, they would like to explore some seating, perhaps some outdoor seating, seasonal type of seating along the west side of the building at some point. Right now, they're really just focused on getting in there, laying the groundwork, for the take and bake pizzas, the prep area. This is really going to be sort of a service space to start with that retail component, for customers to come in and pick up. But as they get on their feet, I wouldn't be surprised if the next step would be for coming back and talking to us about maybe if there is some available floor space within the building, maybe a small seating area, and that of maybe even using that the railroad park to the west. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderperson Grisham.
Thank you, Mayor Devine. My question really isn't about the design inside. It really does more have to do with the outside design. And I know that they're not crossing that bridge right now, but I guess my question would be, with that railroad park being a city-owned park, how much of it would be utilized regularly, for one? Would there be special use as it's a park? Is it permitted? Lots of questions with that, maintenance wise. And also the fact that, you know, the parking might be a little bit of an issue in that area. I know you mentioned the municipal lot, but that business just east next to their building, I know has been vacant for so many years, and it's a huge lot. And I guess my concern would be the owner of that property, and that they're aware that that is not public space to park. That would be a potential issue I would see, just with the amount of parking that they have maybe just in front. And there's a lot of businesses on the other side of the street. But I think my biggest concern would be the railroad park, because, you know, we have to, in all of our other city parks, we have to have special use permits, I would think. And if they're going to add that kind of incorporate it to their business and outdoor sales, how that's monitored.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that will definitely cross that. I mean, I don't think they're going to be using the park for some time. I mean, they want to get the initial business started here, get it going, and then, but they will definitely be working with them in conjunction on and coordinating with the alderpersons, you know, council as well on you know, proper permits and agreements necessary to you know, if they would like to use the park down the road. Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's something that our public works department and you know, older persons need to know. So, but I think the purpose of tonight's special use was really just to, you know, for the property itself, at you know, the private property itself, and then, but they will definitely be you know, entertaining, you know, us with some additional, you know, information as they get their feet in the door.
Well, thank you. And I'm really excited for this business. I think there's a great potential, but I just had those questions. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine, Alderman Weigel.
Go ahead, Alderman Weigel.
So back to this specific issue tonight, we're approving, it's called a proposed restaurant. So we are not currently approving indoor dining at this location right now. I think I saw only one restroom in there way in the back, and it was like through their production area. So I'm not sure that might be, do I understand that correctly? Steve, we are not approving indoor dining with this.
No, I mean, there is no indoor dining proposed at this time. I mean,
I don't have a problem with it. I just wanted to make sure that we're voting on what I understand we're talking about here. And you know, is it possible that someday we vacate that alley and give it to the property owner there? I haven't talked to Kevin McFadden. He's still a property owner there, I believe. That might make it more useful for him. It looks like it's a pretty new alley, though. I don't know if we want to give away a brand new alley like that. So, because I think there might still be access along the railroad tracks on the south side of the building with that dirt alley back there. That's another issue. Right now, we are not approving indoor dining.
Nothing's been shown on the inside yet as far as indoor dining, right? Yeah, this is purely take and bake. Yep.
I'm all good with it. Okay, but thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Sure.
Thank you, Alderman Weigel. Any other questions from the council? Okay, and assuming no late comments came in, we will close public hearing number 6. That does conclude our public hearings this evening. We will move on then to item E.
Mayor Devine.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick, I'm sorry. Oh,
Mayor
go ahead.
Devine.
I did have a question, Mayor Devine. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alderperson Ranky.
Yes, it's a question for Steve. Basically, I approve of the type of the business. I'm sure it has great potential. However, isn't this the area in which there was a developer that was interested in the whole of the block to build a development appropriately for that area? Isn't that the block?
It's part of it.
Is there still a developer that is interested in the whole of the block to build I guess he was thinking of apartments or townhouses or condos, I don't know, but wasn't that a plan at one time, Steve?
You're correct, Alderman Reinke. Yeah, that is. I mean, that developer is still doing their due diligence. Looking at maybe not so much this property any longer, but they're focusing on properties to the west, is my understanding. But nothing's come forward yet. It's still an idea. They're in the idea phase. They're putting their thoughts together, and I would, as they get more serious, they'll come back to us, and we'll learn more to see how they're, adapting their project.
Well, meanwhile, these people are interested in utilizing the building, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they building, are they leasing it, or are they purchasing this building?
Right now it's a lease. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Rowe.
If I may just back up, since Alderman Reinke brought it up. Steve, you just said this developer is interested in properties to the west. That would be the railroad park, correct?
I'm sorry, to the east. I'm sorry, to the east.
Okay.
Yes, the wrong direction. Go, yeah.
Thank you.
Right, yeah, sure.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Any other questions on the reopened public hearing number 6?
Thank you, Mayor Devine.
You're welcome. Okay, we will close that and now again move on to item E, Alderman Lysick.
Mayor Devine, I move for suspension of the rules to allow for the alternate order of business on this meeting's agenda.
So move. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion with a second by Alderman Vitale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. We will move on to item F, the mayor's report. I have a few things I want to touch on this evening. The first is to once again publicly thank our Public Works Department for the job that they all did in dealing with this storm the past weekend. I believe this was the biggest snowfall we've had in about a decade since having to work on it. And I think we all recognize that we went to sleep and woke up and that snow was still coming down. They worked through the night trying to keep the streets open, trying to keep commerce moving and getting people to work and appointments and things like that. So I just really want to thank them, and I want to thank the community for their patience. I know that they put in a lot of long hours and really dealt with a lot of heavy that fell for probably about 13, 14 hours consecutively. So they did a very nice job, and I got a lot of compliments. And I also want to thank the cleanup staff that dealt with a lot of the complaints that I know some of the older people and myself have also received. The other thing I want to touch on is, although it really didn't get a proper grand opening due to COVID, I'm sure a lot of you are aware about our fitness court on National Avenue in Veterans Park. Well, we found out recently that each year the National Fitness Campaign does awards. They give out healthy infrastructure awards in 5 categories, and they are showcased throughout the country on their platform, social media platforms and things. So the city of West Allis was awarded the Design Excellence Award for the mural that we worked with our branding company to put on the side of that fitness court. So it might be covered in snow right now, but when the snow melts and you can get a chance to take a look at that if you haven't seen it, very happy the way that turned out. And they mentioned in there how it kind of complements the Wallpapered City project in West Allis. That's almost like another piece of public art with a public health component attached to it. And the third and final thing I want to touch on is that as we all know, February is Black History Month, and I have proclaimed it as such in West Allis. So I'm just asking residents to take some time this month and just think about all the achievements and the contributions of African Americans throughout our community, but not just in our community, also in our country and in the history of our country. Thank you. That does conclude the mayor's report this evening. Are there any reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine.
Alderperson Grisham.
I want to echo what you said about this major snowstorm and the fantastic job in communications that DPW put out to the alders, which was in turn very helpful for our community. I also want to acknowledge our community itself, especially District 3. I have seen and heard so many good deeds done by each other. Very little complaints. I mean, like you said, it was a decade of a storm, and we came together. And the Snow Angel program was boosted. We had a nice piece on WISN that promoted our new Snow Angels program. And I think we have a fit for our volunteers, matching our residents in need right now. But again, I can't thank everybody enough for the work that they put in throughout the weekend. And the DPW is still working very hard in getting the city up and running. But I think compared to looking at, you know, the complaints I'm seeing in Milwaukee and the disaster that they have going on right now with their streets, these crews just sailed through it. So thank you again.
Thank you. Any
Mr.
other
Mayor.
reports from the alder persons? Was that
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman
Yes.
Vitale?
Yeah, I like to concur on that just as well. I mean, I believe the public work, they've done a great job. But the only problem that by talking with Dave Wapke just as well, in regard to the East End, I think portion of the second district just as well, you know, it's been some lacking of people really parking on both sides of the street during this storm. I mean, I drove around and I see no banks, you know, because cars were parked there, and people now move their car and park where they should be that particular night, whether it's odd or even numbers, you know. And that's one thing that I did email about a month ago to the deputy chief about it, that we should kind of enforce more, because winter is coming, you know, and on the East End in particular, we face a lot of problem in public works. The crews are complaining about it because they can't even drive through on some of the side streets because cars park on both sides. So, I mean, I don't really understand. Those people don't buy permits anymore to park out overnight. They don't get tickets by the police department or the checkers. They work from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Now I'm consider sponsoring a resolution to change from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. You know, try to give the police department more time to go through, and check those cars, the violators, really. Because again, during the good times, you know, streets are dry and everything else, that's fine. But when we get a snowstorm in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, I mean, that's the way it is. And we have people, they disobey the rules. I mean, and that's one thing kind of I'm disappointed about, because public works, they've been taking more time and it costs more money to the taxpayers, because we have some people out there that they don't care. I mean, I tell it bluntly the way I feel. To me, that's one thing. The police department, they have to be really strict on it to issue citations. That's the bottom line. I mean, to me, there's no way out, because if we let people get away with this, you know, I got people calling me today about it. I said, people park on my side street the whole week, never got a ticket. And that's what the thing that I kind of addressed to I want to say the name, one of the deputy chief, I emailed to him, and he responded to me, and he said it was going to be taken care of, the issue. But it seemed like the issue is not have been taken care of. I'm sorry that I experienced that. You know, to me, it's a gospel truth, and I don't think the public works needs to put up with some nonsense. To me, it's cost time. Guys got to go back the second time, the third time. I mean, and to me, it's unrealistic. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Vitale, I just want to respond to that. There was a conversation late last week between the police chief and the public works director, and the police chief specifically said that his officers were out and they were hammering, I quote, hammering illegal parking and towing and ticketing. And I don't know how that's compared to previous snowstorms, but I can tell you that I know you weighed in, and our public works director had said he was very appreciative of the patrol staff and the dispatchers on the work they were doing to handle this. And I know that there was a lot more of a focused effort this past weekend than at least it was being talked about well in advance and planned for, as opposed to regular towing and ticketing. So it's definitely on the radar. Again, I can't compare it to the previous two substantial snowfalls we've had this season, but I know that it was definitely being looked at sincerely.
Yeah, it's not out of question, Mayor. I mean, like I said, I appreciate what the police department have been doing, you know, but just the fact when I'm getting about 4 calls, residents complain about neighbors park on one side of the streets, never move their cars, then Public Works to drive it through. And a lot of time the plow has trouble really to come through. Like you take a part of 62nd, 56, you know, all the east portion, you know, some of those cars not move for 4 or 5 days, you know, and
I
that's
see our,
where the issue is.
I see our
So I mean, I appreciate the police try their best, and I'm not saying they're not. I mean, really, but I want to. I mean, I could be, I could be
hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
appropriately find what's going on, but the fact it is that
Alderman Kelly, please hold
Yes.
on one.
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest this point cutting this off because we're getting out of the idea of announcements and events attended. This isn't a properly noticed item for the public at this point. So this item, though, based on Alderman Vitale's request, will appear on the subsequent council agenda. So I would just like to save this discussion for that point in time to make sure it's properly noticed.
Thank you. All right.
Attorney Keller, I mean, I want to say that I know I was a little bit out of line, but the fact is sometimes you have to come forward and discuss some of the issue, which, like I said, they're not on the agenda. I understand that, but the fact is, as part of some of the issue, they do arise. So some of the discretions, I mean, sometimes, I mean, it could be kind of say, well, that's the way it is. I mean, I think as an alderman, as a city official, I believe I have to answer to people. And that's the bottom line. That's what I've been on this for a long time. And I always feel people comes first. So if people call me about it and I forward an email to handle the issue, and then, you know, things are a little bit lackey, well, then let's the higher up to follow through and take care of those issues.
Okay,
So
Alderman, I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
That's it. I'm done.
And I don't think anyone would ever question Alderman Vitale's vigorous advocacy for his constituents. We just have to make sure it's properly noticed so that we can do it.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor-
Any other alderpersons?
Mayor
Alderperson-
Devine,
Yeah, don't tell me you're going to talk about parking.
no. No, I promised to say something positive. I was very pleased to see the positive article in the Journal Sentinel regarding our Snow Angel project last week. Also, if I can, I'd like to say it was nice to see Alderman Grisham's smiling face on Channel 12 explaining about the project, along with the Please customer and the Snow Angel, and explaining about the project. It was a nice job, and I certainly commend Alderman Grisham for representing us so well.
Thank you.
Any other reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of the January 19th, 2021 Common Council meeting.
Okay, Tenorio.
Second,
Motion and a second by Alderman Tenorio. Were there any changes to the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We will go to item I is one item, which I will ask for a motion to refer to the city attorney.
So moved.
second,
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item J is standing committee reports from the License and Health. Alderman Vitale, would you like to move approval of those 3 items? I read your lips, Alderman Vitale.
Vince, you're muted.
Where was that before?
Oh,
Vince muted.
Vince,
All right,
you have to
well,
unmute yourself.
That was a motion by Alderman. There he is.
All right, I'm on now.
All right.
So a motion to approve 9 and 10 and 11 for placing on file.
so
Thank you.
moved. Oh, I don't need to do that. I'm
That was
sorry.
the motion. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. And now we will move on to.
Okay, Mayor Devine, I have a point of order here. The motion by Alderman Vitale that we just voted on was to approve 9 and 10. They were recommended for denial of 9 and 10. I think we just
Correct, that's what I said, denial.
appropriately.
I think
So
it's
I was mute, I think. That's why you guys couldn't hear me.
I read that as approving the motion to deny.
Denial,
So-
yes.
And
Correct.
yeah, great. As long as everyone on this conference understands our action here, yeah,
Gotcha.
I'm good with it then. Thank you.
And 11 was to place on file.
Yes.
You got that one right. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Mr. Mayor,
Attorney Decker.
for what it's worth, the chair would only have the ability to bring forth the committee's recommendation anyway in this
Yeah.
manner. So the only way it would be valid is if it was as recommended by the committee. So
right.
Just so everyone's clear.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Alderman Haas. We will now go on to item K, which is our consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be drawn out?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick?
there's been a request to take item 15 and refer to Administration and Finance Committee.
Okay,
So I would move that that item be sent to Administration and Finance.
I'll second it.
okay, and I'm hearing there was a request for item 16.
Mr. Mayor,
This was for 15.
15.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk.
16 has the fire structure fee in it, so it would probably be a good idea to have that
Oh,
one
both of them.
referred also.
Fine.
Thank you.
I'll amend my motion to be 15 and 16.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
All in favor of that referral, please say aye.
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 Hi.
Mayor Devine.
Yep. Any opposed? Is this on the motion, Alderman Stefanski?
Well, there's a couple of things that I'd like to have.
All right, we'll get through this one first. No opposition, then that item 15 and 16 are referred to A and F. Alderman Stefanski?
Item 21, I'd like to refer to committee so we can, or put it on hold so we can look into it with the owner of the business, as I didn't see the signs by that business where they're saying the ordinance is. So I'd like to have that one put on hold for right now. And then item 33, I'd like to be pulled out for a separate vote.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Vitale?
yeah, I would like to ask Alderman Stefanski about, you want to hold the item 21?
Yes, the parking restriction ordinance.
Yes.
I'd like to discuss that with the business owner, and because where this is saying that the signs are, there are no signs currently.
There's no signs at all right now.
Not in that location.
Maybe they've been removed. I mean, it could be have been removed.
Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah,
Mayor?
I believe that's what happened, because Robert Honor called me about it, so maybe they did remove it. So maybe, yeah, I could call Robert tomorrow and I'll let you know,
Okay.
Looks like Pete was nodding his head that they were removed.
Oh. They may have.
Mayor,
Yeah.
Attorney Decker?
I believe there was a motion from Alderman Stefanski to refer item 21 to Safety and Development, I'm guessing. Is that
Mhm.
the correct committee? So
correct.
there's a,
And I'd like to second that.
Okay. I'm just gonna write that down. Give me a minute. All right, motion then to refer to safety and development and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then item 33 was,
Mayor Devine, item 33 is not being acted on. It's not on the consent agenda. That is being referred to Safety and Development Committee. So
Thank you.
we're meeting on all of items 29 to 33 will be meeting on next Wednesday.
Thank you.
I
Thank
know you
you.
said that earlier.
And so at this time, I would move to adopt, approve, and receive all matters on the consent agenda as presented or as recommended by staff.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderperson Keene. If there's no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Ranke,
Aye.
Rote,
Aye.
Stefanski,
Aye.
Tenorio,
Aye.
Vitale,
Aye.
Weigel,
Aye.
Grisham,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Keen,
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, motion carries. So I believe that covered everything in the consent, excuse me, the consent agenda. And we will go to item L, items referred to committee. Alderman Lysick.
All those items are being referred to committees, so there's no action necessary on those this evening. So I would move that we adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting, Wednesday, February 17th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Mayor,
I see our city attorney lighting up here, so I'm going to give him a moment.
Okay.
although the items were introduced to council, a formal motion to refer to committees as it recommended would still be in order at this time. So I just ask that the council do that to just formalize it.
Okay, Kayla, I've got a question on that then. We never did that before. We always, the items were referred to committee. Is it because someone isn't putting that on there, what committee they belong to?
Correct. So in the past, because we don't do recess meetings anymore, we don't have an opportunity to have the council meet and then refer an item to committee and then come back and do it again. So because of that reason, if we put these items directly onto the committee agendas without having the council refer it, they would not be able to take action
Oh, no.
because it
no,
has
no,
not been
no, no.
properly
Yeah.
introduced.
Well, I guess I'm going to disagree with you, Kale, because it comes onto the agenda. The items are being introduced that evening and they're all listed under the appropriate committees. So the agenda is referring the items to committee. It isn't the
Right.
council doing it, the action of the council approving the agenda. So when these items come on the agenda, I would ask that the clerk's office put the proper committee on these so that there doesn't necessitate another motion. And I would also request that the city attorney referrals be put on the consent agenda, since that's an automatic motion every meeting that we make that doesn't have to be made.
I think we could bring forth some rules for the council to adopt that would effectuate those things in the
And
future.
quite frankly, in another month, we won't be doing this anymore. We're going to be back to meeting live. Thank God.
So
We-
that being said, do we want to have a
Well,
motion
I
to?
would- Okay, I'll move to place items, to refer items
29.
29, nope.
Yeah, 29 to 33.
Oh, but there's a combination liquor license in there. No, 29, 30, 31, 32. No, 29, 30, and 31, I would move to refer to License and Health Committee. And items 32, 33, 34, and 35 would be referred to Safety and Development Committee.
I second that.
Second by Alderman Haas. Everybody clear on this?
If so.
Okay. All right, so 29 through 31 are going to License and Health, and 32 through 35 are going to Safety and Development.
Correct.
Okay, there's a motion, there's a second. If there's no discussion, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Reinke,
Aye.
Rote,
Aye.
Stefanski,
Aye.
Tenorio,
Aye.
Vitale,
Aye.
Weigel,
Aye.
Grisham,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Keen,
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries.
Oh, I will move that we adjourn until Wednesday, February 17th at 7 p.m.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderperson Grisham. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? No opposition. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, all.